If you're a system administrator looking to add another dimension of security to your Active Directory environment, you may want to consider a PKI, a public key infrastructure. Today, I'm going to use ADCS to build a private multi-tier PKI within an Active Directory domain. Let's get it done. Greetings, everyone. Troy here, and welcome. Today, I'm building a multi-tiered PKI inside an Active Directory domain. I'm going to be using Active Directory certificate services to get this done. I'm going to assume that you're here because you've got a foundation or at least an understanding in PKI and an understanding of Active Directory, and you're just simply looking to see how we might build something like this in a domain. Now, I've put a whole bunch of useful links and information in the description below, including video timestamps. So if you want to breeze through, jump to the section that's most interesting for you, feel free to do that. We're going to start with the description of the build right now. Now, as you can see, I've got a fictional domain called corp.troy.net anchored by a domain controller using Windows Server 2022 as the operating system. It's running ADDS as well as DNS, nothing else. I have placed a series of users and OUs into that environment myself, my buddy Fred Flintstone, and his buddy Barney Rubble. I have also preset a couple other servers. I have a Windows Server 2022 running as my enterprise certificate authority. Sometimes we might call this my subordinate CA or my intermediate CA. Either way, this is my issuing CA. This is where the certificate is going to be issued from my domain. It's going to be the bottom of my PKI hierarchy, and it is going to be working with another server that is not domain joined. It is a standalone Windows Server 2022 that will serve as my root CA, my root server, my root certificate authority. I've thrown in a couple workstations here that we can use for testing, a Windows 11 as well as a Windows 10. And I've highlighted a series of certificate files that are going to be very important to us along the way. I'll draw attention where these play into our build, as well as focus on these particular file extensions so you can help keep track of what we're building. Now, I've also built a PKI battle plan. I'll throw this text document into the description below as well. This is my personal checklist. This is the steps that I'll be following through the video. And you can see that I am highlighted already my first phase, which was building my underlying lab infrastructure. As I said, I've simply deployed my domain controller. I've deployed my two workstations, joined those to the domain. I've deployed my enterprise CA. Now, when I say deploy, all I've done there is installed Windows Server 2022. I haven't installed any server roles. I'm going to do that all with you in front of my particular build. And I have deployed my root CA, which all I've done there is simply installed the Windows Server 2022 OS. So let's get started. The first stage of this deployment is to build my PKI hierarchy. As I said, this is a multi-tier environment, and so I'm going to be starting with configuring my root CA. First thing I've got to do is install my Active Directory certificate services role, as well as configure that to claim the role of the root CA, my root certificate authority. Let's get that done. Gets out of the way, pop over to my virtual machine. And I have highlighted this with a purple background so we can sort of distinguish it from the rest. This is my root CA. So as I mentioned, the first step in my battle plan is to install Active Directory and then configure it as the root CA. Let's burn into my server manager and add a role and feature. Next, through my role-based selection, and I'm going to verify that is as I want it. I've got my IP address and my server name properly allocated. I'm going to check the box for Active Directory certificate services, add the requisite features, and next my way through to the very end. Now, bear in mind, I get a warning right here that says my name and domain settings cannot be changed once I have deployed my Active Directory CS. So once I install this, I am going to have to live with the configuration. This machine is currently not domain joined. You could domain join your root CA if you wanted to. I've chosen not to. But once we cast this installation, there's no going back and undoing it without basically resetting the entire machine. I'm going to click Next, and I'm going to make the purpose of this machine the certificate authority. You'll see I've got a variety of other options. This particular role of the root CA is simply the certificate authority. That's all I want. I'm going to hit Next, and I'm going to hit Install. Now, this installation will only take a second. This is kind of like Active Directory, where I install the role, and then I'm going to have to do some post-configuration configuration. I'm going to have to do some more configuration once this is installed. Fairly quick little installation here. There we go. My configuration is successful. I'm going to hit close. My ADCS role is showing in my server manager, and I have this little yellow box here that tells me there's a post-deployment configuration task that I've got to do. That's where I am now going to claim the role of the root CA, and I'm going to pre-configure some certificate extensions. Let me show you how. I'm going to click on my configure my Active Directory services role. Up comes a wizard. Now, notice my credentials. I'm logged in as the local administration because, as I said, this particular machine is not domain joined. I'm going to confirm those credentials, and I'm going to move through the role for CS that I want. This is the only option is as a certificate authority. The rest are grayed out. I did not select those in my install. I'm going to hit next, and you can see that I am defaulting to a standalone CA. That's exactly what I'm after. This is going to be my root certificate authority. I'm going to hit next. It challenges me to confirm that. I'm going to use the subordinate one on my issuing CA, but root is what I want. And now I have to create a private key. This is going to be my key pair that I'm going to use to exchange with my issuing CA to create the trust relationship. I can choose from a variety of hashing algorithms. I'm going to go right up to the top for key length, and I'm going to hit next. And I now get to choose the name of this certificate authority as well as the certificate that's going to come with. I'm going to leave it as the default root CA. I'm going to click next. I get to choose the validity period. I'm going to accept the default 5 years. I'm going to take a note of the database locations. It is in my Windows System 32 folder. We'll browse through there in a couple minutes to see exactly what's going on. I'm going to hit next, and I get a summary of my installation, a simple button, hitting configure, and away I go. Another quick little configuration behind the scenes here. This will just take a second. And once this is done, we're going to have our certification authority all configured. Green check mark is a good thing to see. I'm going to close this window, and you can see there's my tool. I'm going to move over to the tools window, and I'm going to open up this new snap-in called the certification authority. All right, let's take a look at what we've built. I'm going to expand this particular snap-in. You can see a bunch of nodes on the left-hand side, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to go to my properties. And what we're going to see here is that we have our first certificate. I'm going to open up View Certificate, and you can see that I have issued a certificate from the root CA to the root CA. Now, this is kind of like me building my own driver's license saying, yes, I am who I say I am. But this is the start of the trust relationship, or our PKI hierarchy. This is essentially the trust anchor, the top of our PKI multi-tiered environment here, and all is going to be built off of this. What we've essentially done is we have built this particular certificate right here. This has been our first construction. It is a root certificate. It is a .crt file. We'll be grabbing that in just a moment. Now, remember, this is a multi-tiered environment, which means that the root CA is not going to be doing the actual issuing of the certificates. In order to make this happen, I need to add certain extensions to this particular certificate to acknowledge that the actual issuing is going to be done by another machine. So I'm going to add 2 specific extensions to my root CA. I'm going to extend the authority information access area. I'm going to increase the boundaries of this hierarchy, and I'm going to do that by adding a new location that will serve as my AIA. Now, that location carries a very specific syntax. You can see that there's an example right here. It is an HTTP location. And what I've done in your PKI battle plan is I have included an example syntax here. Let's take a look at what this is so you can see it a little bit easier than in the snap-in. It is going to be a hypertext transfer protocol, and this is the IP of the server that will be my issuing authority. This is the IP address of my subordinate CA or my enterprise CA. This is a file location on that particular machine, and this is the syntax of the certificate that will be formed with this particular extension. I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to do a quick little copy here. We could build this by hitting the add button and going through and inserting all these variables. But because I've preset that, I'm just going to do a little paste, and that's all I need to do. Now, be careful here. Loads of problems will come if we do not get the syntax exactly correct. You can see that we can insert these different variables here. I have simply included the server DNS name, the CA name, and the certificate name, and that is going to be populated on that enterprise CA. And click add, and I'm going to hit apply. And what it's going to do is do a quick little restart of my certificate services, and it's just going to acknowledge the inclusion of that new extension. Just takes a quick second to do that. And then we are going to move over and we're going to do the same thing by creating the distribution point of the CRL. And we're going to do that by adding a second extension right there. And that is under this particular extension dropdown. Again, I'm going to acknowledge that this server is not going to be the CRL. I'm going to expand that by adding a new location. I'm going to paste that in. Again, I've got the server IP address, the folder location on that server, and then all I've done here, everybody, is I have just simply used this example that they've given us, my CA name, my CRL name suffix, and my Delta CRL as a .crl file. I'm going to hit OK. I want to include these two checkboxes here, and I'm going to hit apply. Again, a restart of that service. And what we've now done is we have created the settings for our CRL, and we now are going to have two particular certificate files ready for our use. Looks like the service is restarted. Looking good so far. Let's take a look at our next step. We've just configured our pre-configuration of our certificate extensions. We are now ready to publish our CRL, our certificate revocation list. That is a simple step. I'm going to click on the revoked certificates node, right-click, all tasks, click on the publish option. And up comes a little wizard here that says, what kind of CRL do you want to publish? Well, I want the most current up-to-date revocation information for that CA. I'm going to click OK, boom, and nothing. You think something should happen here? Well, actually something did. What happened was behind the scenes. You pop into this particular location on your C drive, you're going to see there's a folder in the System32 called CertServe, Auto-Enroll, and that's where that certificate list was exported. Let's go grab it. And while we're there, we're going to grab the root certificate as well. I'm going to click into my Windows Explorer, root of C, Windows, System32. There it is. And I want my CertServe, Auto-Enroll. There they are. Now, bear in mind, everybody, I do have my file extension, my file name extensions showing. I really encourage you to do that. These file extensions are going to help me keep track of which particular certificates I'm working with. I want both of these. I'm going to click on the Control C or my right click, copy, and let's go throw these onto my desktop here. Just paste those things on there because I'm going to eventually move these over to my enterprise CA. So what we've effectively done is created these two particular certificates. I've got my root certificate, my .crt file, and I now have my CRL, my certificate revocation list, the most recent version. It is a .crl file, and that is sitting on my desktop. Now, I need to grab one more important thing. I need to grab my root certificate with the CA's public key. That has to be sent to the enterprise CA so we can establish our trust relationship. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to move into my start menu and I'm going to type in manage computer certificates. That's what I want right there. And up comes a series of nodes. I'm going to click on the personal certificates option. There's my root CA. I can open her up and see that's the same one that I was looking at in my certificate snap-in. I'm going to right click on this guy and I'm going to go under all tasks and export this particular certificate. Now, what this is doing is something special. It's going to add the server's public key that the enterprise server is going to need to establish that PKI hierarchy. I do not want to export the public key. I'm going to accept the default X509 certificate type as the .cer file extension. Excellent. Next. And I need to simply now give this thing a name. Now, remember, this is a lab, everybody. We're just playing around. I'm going to make this so simple that I can't screw this up. And I'm going to call this, I'll throw this on my desktop, and I'm going to call this my root cert with pub key. There we go. So now I know exactly what this CER extension is doing. This has the public key that my enterprise server is going to need. Going to finish the wizard. There's my export. It showed up right there. Nailed it. What I've done now is I have all three of these certificates, my CRT, my CRL, my CER. I need to move those over to my enterprise CA. Now I'm working with virtual machines. This is going to be as simple as me grabbing these with a right click and a copy, and I'm going to pop over to my enterprise CA, which has got a different background to help me make sure I'm working on the right machine. A little bit of a right click and a paste, and I have successfully transferred those three files to my enterprise CA. I'm now right here. I'm ready to deploy my enterprise CA to configure my PKI hierarchy. So exciting. Okay, so now we're going to deploy our enterprise CA, and you can see what I need to do here is start off by installing the ADCS role. That's also going to actually at the same time give me my IIS role, which I have not done. And then I'm going to configure in my post configuration, make this the enterprise CA, or a subordinate issuing certificate authority. Fantastic. Let's get this done. I'm going to move into, let's just close out my root CA, so I'm not getting anything mixed up. Pop into my server manager. I need to add a role and features just like I did before. I'm going to flip through, and now I see this is my domain join machine. Very important. Make sure that you are logged in as a domain administrator. Don't log in as the local admin. That will just foul everything up. I'm going to hit the next button, install my Active Directory CS role, add features. Next, I'm going to just keep going. It warns me again. Now, once I've deployed this, it is going to be essentially locked. Now, this is going to be a certificate authority, but it also is going to be a certificate authority with web enrollment. What I wanted there is the fourth one down, my certificate authority web enrollment. This is now essentially acting as the issuing location, or my location that all my devices are going to talk to grab that certificate. I'm going to now hit next. It grabs my IIS tools. I'm going to hit install. And again, I'm going to just wait for the wizard to finish. Now, this install takes a little bit longer because it does have an additional server role, but it's still not more than about a minute. It is a straightforward, let her rock through that progress bar kind of install. Good time to grab a coffee, take a stretch, but don't go too far because it's only a second. And there we go. There is my successful installation. I did pause the video there. It took a couple seconds, but I'm going to hit close, and I'm ready for my post configuration. I'm going to actually move into my post deployment. Let's configure the credentials and claim the enterprise CA role. Now, notice I am using my domain credentials here. I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to select both my certificate authority as well as my web enrollment role. I'm going to hit next. And now it's automatically detecting that I'm probably looking for an enterprise CA. Must be a domain member, which I am, and this will stay online. Now, this is not going to be a root CA. This is going to be a subordinate CA because it is going to take instructions from the top of the hierarchy, which was my root certificate authority. I need to create a private key pair. Let's click in here with my key length. I'm going to grab this 4096. Excellent. Next. And now I'm going to accept the defaults again. It is my corp.entCA. That is going to be the certificate. I'm going to click next. And now I get a chance to create a special file. That file right here is a REQ file. This is going to allow the enterprise CA to request permission to be granted authority to issue certificates on its behalf. Now, I can use this if I wanted to use this particular option because they are connected. I could do so, but I'm going to do the manual way so you can see the process. It might make more sense. I'm going to create this special REQ file that will be exported to the base of C. I'm going to hit next, and it notifies me where my database location is going to be. It warns me of my summary. I'm going to hit configure. And that looks good. I have a green check bar. It's telling me that my configuration as a subordinate CA is successful, but it's telling me that it's not finished yet because I have not been granted permission from the root CA to issue certificates on its behalf. I'm going to fix that shortly. Let's hit close and check our list. All right, next we are going to continue the creation of the trust relationship. We're still building our PKI hierarchy. And the next step here is to create my enterprise CA public key. Now I've done that, and that was placed at the base of C. There it is right there, that special REQ file. I'm going to right click and copy it, and I'm going to throw this onto the desktop. Now I'm going to have to move this particular file over to the root CA, and we'll use that to request authority to issue certificates on its behalf. However, prior to do that, I've got some housekeeping to do. What I've got to do is I've got to install the CA's root certificate into my enterprise CA. And let's hit that step right here. Now, this is the certificate with the public key, my CER. This is the guy I want, the one that has the public key. I'm going to right click and I'm going to install the certificate. Up comes my import wizard. I'm going to install this for my local machine, not my particular current user. I'm going to hit next, and it gives me an option to place the certificate in the following store. And the store that I want is my trusted root certification authorities. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to hit next, and it tells me it's going to place that certificate in my trusted root certification authorities. Done. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. I should see a pop-up telling me that the certificate was imported successfully. There it is. Cool. Took a couple seconds, but worth waiting for. It was just as exciting as advertised. Let's hit OK. Go back to my checklist. I now need to extend my AIA by creating those specific distribution points that I created in the extensions of my root CA. Now remember, I told the root CA that there was going to be a specific location on the enterprise CA from which the certificates would be distributed. And I need to create that particular location right now. What I'm going to do is move into my Windows File Explorer, and I'm going to go to the inet pub folder, and I want to go to the www root folder. This is where I'm going to place this special folder called cert data, and that is going to serve as my start of my AIA and my CRL distribution point. Let's create a folder here, and I'm going to call it cert data. Okay, very important I get that spelling right. And I need now to copy my CRL, drop that in there, and I need to get my CRT, my root CA, my root certificate. I'm going to drop that in there. Now, I've already used my CER. I've installed that in the trusted certificate store. That next step is now complete. I have, in fact, done this. Not done yet. What we now need to do is we need to send this certificate request, that .req file, back to the root CA to say, hey, I'm all ready to go. I would like to issue certificates on your behalf. May I have your permission? In order to do that, I'm going to go grab this particular .req file, a right click and a copy, and let's go back to my enterprise CA. I'm going to drop this onto my desktop. There it is right here. And let's go back to my certification authority snap-in. Now, here's what I need to do. I need to go to my root CA. I need to go to the top of my certification authority. I'm going to go all tasks, and I'm going to submit a new request. I'm going to hit that option there, navigate to my desktop. That's the request file that is coming from the enterprise CA. I'm going to hit open. And if I refresh, there it is. Took a couple seconds there. Little concerning how long that took, but that's okay. Now, I see I have a pending request from the enterprise CA asking to issue certificates on its behalf. I'm going to right click on my particular certification request. I'm going to all task and I'm going to say, yeah, you can do that. Thank you. And now you'll see I have a brand new certificate. This is a whole fresh one. And if we go back to our goal here, we're going to have this particular certificate that we have just created. Make sure you guys can see that around my fat head. This certificate, though, is a little bit different. If I open this up, you're going to see that it contains the complete PKI hierarchy that we've been building this whole time. Let's take a look. This is a certificate issued from the root CA to the enterprise CA. And if you see here, you see I've got my PKI hierarchy now. This is the badge that I'm going to give to the enterprise CA that gives it the authority to actually issue certificates on the root CA's behalf. Now, how do I do that? I have to hit the details tab and I'm going to copy these details to a file. I'm going to hit the next button. And now this time I want to be very particular about the extensions that I use. Remember, I'm trying to keep these files separate. And so as not to confuse my extensions, I'm going to use the P7B standard, the PKCS standard, including all the certificates in the path if possible. I'm going to hit next. And I now need to give this a name. I'm going to throw this on my desktop here. Now, remember, what I'm building is this guy right here, the root certificate that contains the issuing authority. So let's call it that. Root CA with issue auth. Sure. Easy peasy, keeping things straight. There we go. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to export successfully. There it is right here. This is the file that I now have to send back to my enterprise CA to give it that final permission. Okay, we're getting close to the end of this first stage. I'm going to right click, copy my root CA with issuing authority, and I'm going to move back to my enterprise CA. Let's paste that in there. Now I'm going to open up my certification authority, snap in, and let's make the magic happen. Couple things to note. First off, this particular service is not running. You see how it's black here? It knows it needs to be a subordinate CA, an issuing CA, but it has not been granted the authority to do so yet. Therefore, the service has not started. The way we're going to fix that is we are going to right click all tasks, and I'm going to install the certificate that contains the permission that my server needs. I'm looking for my PKCS file. Let's move to my desktop. There it is right there. I'm going to hit open and I'm going to pause. This is the moment of truth. What I'm waiting for is no errors, and I'm waiting for it to load the certificate. Beautiful. Now, what that meant is that everything worked. If you got an error here, it probably meant we've messed up the extensions. But because that was installed successfully, I can now right click all tasks and I can start the service. And now my enterprise CA should go green. Green is gold. Green is good. Come on, baby. Show me green. There we go. You'll see now that my enterprise CA is now authorized and ready to issue certificates on behalf of my root CA. So exciting. But we still have work to do. Here's where we are on a checklist. I have just completed the certificate request process on the enterprise CA. I have exported and installed the new certificate on the enterprise CA. I have now completed my PKI hierarchy. Yes. Now what I need to do is I need to go to my domain controller, and I've got to set this up so my users and computers can actually auto-enroll in my new PKI certificate program. All right, these are going to be my steps to make that happen. Let's start off with this guy right here. There's my certificate. You'll see that I can view this. This is the one that grants me all the special authority. I could take a breeze through the properties as seen from the surface. And there's my path showing me my full PKI hierarchy. fantastic. But what I need to do is I'm going to expand some additional extensions to expand my CRL and my AIA. Now, what I'm eventually going to do is I'm going to have a distribution point that will be a website, but I'm just for best practice is going to show you where I would put these in. I've got an example of the syntax for a web location that will serve as my AIA. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to drop this into my ad. You're going to see that there's my web location, gives me an idea. I'm going to just hit the paste button here and I'm going to hit OK. Let's apply this. It's going to restart that certificate service. While it's doing that, I'm going to go grab the second one. This will be my CRL with a Control C. Let's move back in here. Pause while this restarts. I'm going to move to my CRL distribution point. I'm going to again add this to my world with a paste, and I'm going to hit OK. Again, I want to include my checkboxes right there. I'm going to hit apply. It'll restart that certificate service. And now I have future-proofed my ADCS. Lovely. Let's close this up and we'll move back to my checklist. Now what I need to do is I'm going to create a certain set of templates that I'm going to use to distribute to my users and computers. Back to my certificate authority I go, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look under this option called certificate templates. Now what I'm doing here, everybody, is I'm going to create my particular domain-based user and computer certificates, and I'm going to set the parameters that I want for those. I'm going to right click. I'm going to click on the manage option. You're going to see I have a whole series of templates that I can use inside my domain with my PKI. I see one called computer. I want every workstation in my world to have a valid digital certificate. I'm going to use this template to do it. I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate this template. And there's a couple options here I want to check. I've listed them in your battle plan. I want to look at your, my compatibility, general naming, and security. Let's take a look at what I mean by that. I'm opening on the compatibility tab. I want this certificate process to be as secure as possible. So I'm going to go to the highest level of security I can. What it means, I'm not going back to make this backwards compatible for anything earlier than Windows Server 2016. I'm compromising security to have legacy devices involved in this process. I'm taking those out of the equations here, no problem. The other thing that you want to consider doing is changing your general naming. We are right there. There we go. So I'm going to call this my TroyNet computer. Let's spell this right, Troy. Computer template. Got it? Okay. And you can see I can set the validity period here, no problem. And the next thing I want to do is move to the security tab, and I have to give my computers the correct permissions. Now, this is a computer template. I'm going to assign these permissions to all my domain computers. I need them to be able to read this certificate, enroll, and auto-enroll in my certificate program. I'm going to hit the apply button and I'll hit OK. There is my new template. I need to do the same thing for my users. I'm going to right click, duplicate this template. Again, I'm going to enhance the security by taking away that backwards compatibility beyond anything newest of my Server 2016. I'm going to move to my general tab and I'm going to call this TroyNet. There we go. Net user template. There we go. I'm going to click apply there. And I'm going to go to the security tab here. And again, for all domain users, I want to give them read and enroll and auto-enroll. Done. Now, there's something very particular here that I want you to know for the users. There are special parameters here that I want to take care of in my lab environment. The problem with my lab environment is I do not have an Exchange server set up. So if we go to my subject name, you're going to notice that it's anticipating an email. I don't have that. It will not be able to talk to my users without an email name in the subject name. I'm going to remove that and remove this and rely simply on the user principal name. So that's something I'm doing for the lab purposes. In a real production environment, I wouldn't have to make that step. I'm going to hit apply and okay. I have 2 new user templates set to go. Still looking good. Let's close this management console and let's bring those 2 new templates into my list of available templates. I'm going to right click and now I'm going to go new certificate template to issue. And I'm going to go back and grab the 2 templates that I just created. Give my server a moment to catch up with me. And there we go. Now, because I named them both TroyNet, I can see them here, nice, tidily organized. I'm going to select both of them and I'm going to hit OK. And you can see there are my 2 new user templates, or my two templates, my user and computer templates, ready to be assigned to my domain objects. Now, time to head to my domain controller, and we are now going to create a GPO to auto-enroll these users and computers. My domain controller is sitting over here, a nice different backdrop to keep them separate again. I'm going to move over to my particular dashboard, find my group policy management console, and let's build ourselves a GPO. There we go, sitting right in here. Now, remember, I actually have created a series of, let's sort of get this out of the way here so you can see this a little bit more clearly. I have a TroyNet folder, and inside my TroyNet folder, I've got computers and I've got personnel. Inside my personnel, I've got servers, I've got my Windows 10, Windows 11, my IT admins, all the stuff on this particular Visio diagram good to go. Now, in this case, I want my GPO to apply to all my users and all my computers, including my member servers. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to set the GPO to be at the top of my hierarchy. It'll inherit through all of these OUs and everybody will get the permissions, or pardon me, get the certificates that I'm after. If you wanted to, you could isolate certain users and computers for certification, for that trusted validation, if you wanted to, by strategically placing your GPO in a different place. But I want everybody to get them. So I'm simply going to create a new GPO at the very top, and I'm going to call this my certificate GPO. Okay, simple, easy, done. Now, I'm going to now edit this certificate, and here's what I've done. I've already laid out the particular nodes for you. This is where we've got to go. We need to do this for both the computer and the users. Where we're headed is this particular path. We're going to go to Policies, Windows Settings. Let's go in here. Policies, Windows Settings. We go Security Settings. I want my public key policies. There we go, right here. And I want my certificate enrollment policy. Inside there, there's my certificate enrollment policy. I'm going to need to right click, go into properties, and I need to enable this. I need to turn it on. And I'm going to hit apply, done. I also want my auto enrollment policy right there. I'm going to right click, go to properties. I'm going to enable that. I wanted to renew and update all my certificates, and I'm going to hit apply and done. Now that's for my computers. I also have to do the same thing for my users. Users, policies, Windows settings, security, public key policies. There we go. My certificate enrollment, right click, properties, enable, apply, close, right click, auto enrollment, properties, enable, checka, apply, done. We now have both of these GPOs set. There's one more that I want. I want to simultaneously allow my root CA to be issued via GPO. Back to the same GPO we go, and I'm going to navigate to this particular path: Computer Policies, Windows Settings, Security, PKP, Trusted Root Certification Authority. So I'm going to go back here to my computer, back up here, Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, my public key policies, and I want Trusted Root Certification Authorities. Let's go in here. Now, there is no certificate to offer. This is the certificate that I'm going to be offering to the domain users. Which one do I need? I need the CER file, the root certificate with the CA's public key. So let's go get it. Where was that? That was on my enterprise CA right there, my root CA with the public key, my CER. Let's right click, copy, move this back over to my domain controller. I'll paste it on the desktop. And now I'm going to right click in my trusted authorities. Let's grab here just so you can see it. I want you to see it. Oh, there we go. My trusted root certificate authority, right click, import, and I'm going to go to the desktop. There we go, is my CER. That's the one that I want. I want you. Bam. I'm going to drop you in here next, and it is going to be dropped in my trusted root certification authority store, and I'm going to hit finish and wait for it. It'll just import here for me. Almost done. Import was successful. Thank you very much. There's my root CA. And if I go take a look here now, this is the certificate that validates me against the root CA issued on behalf of my issuing or my enterprise CA. Excellent. Let's see if this all came together. There's my GPO. It is all set. And it is now containing, if I right click on my settings, you're going to see, let's close this. There's all my settings. Everything looks the way I want it to go. Let's push this GPO out to my workstations and users and see if this worked. Hop into, let's go with our Windows 10. And here I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as Troy. So I'm going to log in as me with my domain password. And I may have to do a GP edit or GP update rather to push this GPO, but let's see if this takes. I'll show you what I mean in just a second here. It's going to create my user here. I'm logging into my Windows 10 machine. While Troy is doing that, let's pop over and let's log into my Windows 11 machine with my friend Barney Rubble. Oh, I need to fix my enhance session here. Let's log him in. There we go. Barney Rubble's logging in and we're going to see. So here's Troy on the Windows 10. And what I meant by pushing a GPO update, just going to my command line, I'm going to go GP update /force. And what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that my user and computer are calling home to see if there's any new GPOs that apply. Of course, there is. And this is successfully updating. I should see the computer policy. There's my user policy. Good to go. Let's pop over to my Windows 11 machine and I'll do a GP update right there as well. Just type you in there, GP update, just to be sure. Force that up and Barney should be updating as well. There's my successful computer update. Wait for my user update. Everything is good there. Now let's see if they have received the certificates that I wanted them to get. Where am I going to go? I'm going to head to my certificate authority on my enterprise CA. And I'm going to click on the issued certificates node. And I have seen success. Awesome. I have got 2 computer certificates, PC1 and PC2. They are on the domain. My NetBIOS is TROY. There are my 2 computer certificates. There's the 2 users that I've logged in as, Berg and Barney Rubble. And look at this, behind the scenes, my domain controller has also received a certificate looking to validate its identity in my domain. Everybody, that was a journey, but we had success. Again, I put all this documentation and all my files inside the description below. I hope this was successful for you and you've got an idea of how now we can establish a PKI infrastructure using Active Directory certificate services. Thanks for watching. See you again.